flower grows.
This is the story of a miracle given by God freely and without reservation to heal a type of grief that no man or woman could ever overcome without his divinity and grace. Ryan Buer was born in Los Angeles, California on September 20th, 1977. His father, Wes, was making a name for himself at the University of Southern California in the field of games and simulations. His career had been successfully launched and was now about to encompass an international marketplace. When tragedy struck on October 21st, 1977, while riding his motorcycle home from a late-night meeting at the university, the night before he was to fly to Thailand on business, Wes was struck by a van driven by two felons. They had kidnapped a florist truck with its driver earlier that day in San Diego. After hours of drinking and drugging, they smashed into Wes and left him for dead. Ryan was only a month old. Wes spent the next year and a half in various hospitals and rehab centers, putting his life back together, broken body and brain. During that time, his wife Dawn divorced him and took their son to Chicago. There's another story to tell someday as to how the Lord brought Wes and Maya together, but we'll save it for another time. Ryan grew up away from his father. Wes yearned to be able to spend more time with his son, not just on vacations. And one day, when Ryan was 18 years old, God granted the desires of Wes's heart. Ryan called and asked if he could come and live with his father. The next year and a half were a true gift from God. The little family of three spent the time learning about one another and cementing their relationship. And then Ryan went back to Chicago. He died 9 months later on June 27, 1999. He had just turned 21. He was a novice at using drugs and obviously had no idea as to how dangerous snorting white powder heroin could be. The coroner determined the cause of death was accidental overdose. He was alone when he died. His body was discovered the next day. Time stopped for Wes and Maya right then and there. During the following 3 weeks, the couple never left their Portland home. Life was empty without Ryan. He had been their hope for the future. The magnitude of their grief could not be expressed in words, but God knew their sorrow. On a Friday, Maya told Wes she was going to try and sit in on a staff meeting at Emmanuel Hospital. She knew that one of them had to do something to break their isolation. She arrived early and not wanting to run into co-workers who would question her as to how she and Wes were doing, she ducked into the little chapel in the psychiatric building. Sitting there alone, she noticed the makeshift altar, the book of scripture, a carved wooden plaque on the left wall. It was Matthew 11, verse 28. As her head turned to the right, the plaque on that wall came to life. The tiny space was filled with the presence of the Spirit, and God spoke Jeremiah's words from chapter 29, verses 11 to 13. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. There was that word, future. Maya wept with gratitude for the Lord's goodness and faithfulness. He had found her at the time of most need. She raced home after the meeting to share the good news with Wes. They both cried as they held tightly to one another. 2 days later, the couple went to the Sunday service at City Bible Church. On that day, never during the previous 6 years of their attendance or the years thereafter did anyone speak out spontaneously out of order of the service. But on that day, a man way in the back of the sanctuary, someone who couldn't possibly have known Wes and Maya, suddenly stood up and apologized to the pastor and church. I'm so sorry, Pastor. I've been sitting here trying to keep still, but God won't leave me alone. I don't know why or for what reason. All I know is that I'm to speak out Jeremiah 29:11-13. And he shouted out the verse for all to hear. The couple crumbled in their seats. The Lord had just confirmed his voice to both of them for the whole church to witness. The God of creation had come down from the heavens to touch them and comfort them and to reassure them that he had plans for their future. Who were they that he would take the time to minister to them so personally? He must love them very much to do such a thing. So this is the story of a miracle. Don't ever doubt that the God of the universe has plans for all of you, and he loves you in a way that cannot be told without using his words.